Welcome back, everybody, to Creative Thinkers. Again, my name is Miguel Valenzuela. As always, we bring you somebody special, but today is her second time here. And the reason for this is because we're going to be talking to her about specifically creativity. Mandy Lopez, and she is an executive coach and also an author. Mandy, welcome.
Thanks, Miguel. Thanks for having me here again.
So I'm really excited because even though we've had this show for a long time and we've done approximately 70 episodes, wow, we really haven't talked about creativity. And I believe that you are the correct person to do so. And why do I believe that? I mean, we've had coffee and kind of hung out and all that, and we always get back to the idea of the importance of what creativity is. So I want to talk about that. And one of my first questions is, and I think it may be the biggest question, is why is creativity so important for us? I think a lot of individuals don't really understand the power of what this thing is. Can you explain?
Absolutely. And you're so right. Creativity is our core. We always come back to that. So in my work and in the medium of the things that I create and do, it's mostly being a researcher and really digging deep into truly how creativity can work in all facets of society, in education, in business, in multimedia, and all these things. When we hear the word creativity, we tend to think that it is in the realms of painting or drawing or sculpture, right?
Yes.
And sometimes it might turn some people off who don't practice those specific art forms.
Right.
So the good news is creativity, I like to come at it from a place of what it truly is called, and it's creative quotient. So in the same way that we measure IQ, intelligence, emotional intelligence, we also have creative intelligence.
Okay.
And creative intelligence is the fusion of the IQ and the creativity. So it's the fusion of the logic and having that creative space, the right and the left brain coming together.
Right.
That truly is creativity as us as human beings. And it is a natural state for us to be in creativity, in the sense that that's how we operate as far as who we are as human beings, because we have a palette of so much to work with in this body, right? So we have our mind, we have the physical body, we have a palette of emotions, we have the way we conceptualize things and process the world outside of us.
Right.
And that whole way that we configure who we are in life and our relation to other people is part of creativity.
Right.
Otherwise, we would live in a very weird experience. We would live in a very just like kind of gray, like filtered experience.
Could we say boring?
Boring, I mean, boring is subjective,
right,
but yeah, it could be really boring. And so creativity ignites the inspiration for us to even just get up in the morning.
True.
Creativity is there to help us heal if we need healing. Creativity, I was just at a friend's party the other day, and I had met a PhD geologist.
Right.
And she told me, she's like, to be a scientist is to be creative.
Absolutely,
and
100%.
she had no idea that I did any of this work. So I was like, yes, tell me more.
What did she say?
She was saying that. She was saying, no, to be a scientist is to be creative. You have to, look at so many things as far as like research and statistics of old, things and of new things being, discovered, and look at it from fresh eyes in a very creative perspective. And we can go into a million, levels as far as what that means. But the point is to have someone who works in such a logical field, which is science, which traditionally we see it as that very logical, say to be a scientist is to be creative.
That's
and
interesting that she said that.
Yes.
Because I think a lot of people end up getting stuck in many ways, right? They end up getting stuck in a situation where they believe, well, as a child, I was taught that a painting is creative or a drawing is creative, and I'm just no good at doing that, right? And when we think that, then we end up getting stuck in this box, right? I'm always talking on this show about how we try to think outside the box, but this box is something that is created for us, made for us, and then we get accustomed to it and then end up getting stuck. So I find it really compelling that this individual, who is, I guess, a well-educated individual, then comes out and says that I am a creative being. How does one become that? How do you, or how have you gotten outside the box? Is this something that you had always done, even as a kid?
I have to say, yeah, I was born, I guess, creative, because I see the mind, I see my life very differently. I always have. So one of my favorite, painters is Salvador Dali.
Oh, beautiful stuff.
Right? Because he sees the world in surrealism. And so I feel that I see the world in surrealism. So through that, and then of course, I'm adept in the theater arts.
Correct.
And, writing and storytelling and voiceover and all that stuff. So for me, I have been lucky that it's just been a way of my life. But most importantly, because of that, I can see the dichotomy of why we need that in our lives in general. Everyone does. And I'm always saying, creativity connects to what it is to be in the human experience.
What does that mean?
So,
because we're all alive,
we're
right?
all alive.
Are you saying that it is us being alive that makes us creative?
100%. So think about this. From our conception, right, we're being created.
Oh.
We're being created.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And the thing is when you look,
that's just the beginning.
That's the beginning.
Yes,
that's the beginning spark of creativity. When you look at things in nature, everything has the same pattern. There's a spiral pattern that everything seems to repeat and seems to have, in coordinates to each other.
Absolutely.
So everything in nature has this pattern. It has a design. We can go back and we can compare to it. So that's creativity unfolding. We can see color. We're blessed that, the majority of us can see color.
Correct.
And if you can't see color, then you have a other heightened, creativity going on with you, right? So we have that in the world. We have the fact that we can speak. Language is creative, and we're able to have this, conversation about the theories of what creativity is. Is it an art? Is it a science? Is it a philosophy? Is it a doing or a being? And on that note, I was actually thinking the other day that I feel like a lot of times we have pressure to be creative, to think that we have to produce something, that I'm only creative if I produce something. Remember we had this conversation and I was like, Miguel, produce something.
Yeah, and I think
something.
that's also something that is taught to us. Like there's no way that we can just kind of sit and create in our minds.
Right.
When we have to create something, we must bring it to fruition. And that's not the only process. As an artist myself, I don't just create something. This creation can come in the way of a TV show, raising my kids, going to work, teaching a class, because that's another thing that I do. So it can come in any way. And one of the things that I really like that you said just a moment ago is we have this palette available to us. And that's one thing that people don't understand, is that everything is connected. If we're an artist, if I'm a painter, as a matter of fact, I use my palette, right? My palette of colors, my palette of tools, all of this to create things. And we all have this available to us. And one of the things that I feel a lot of individuals don't do is that they don't take advantage of their palette. How can somebody take advantage of these ideas, concepts, influences even sometimes, right? How can somebody do that?
Well, so, okay, perfect question. Going back to how we shouldn't have the pressure to produce something which makes us creative, we can take advantage of that by allowing creativity to be something that we experience within. So the times that we need to just be silent and go within, the times that we need to self-analyze, the times that we need to just kind of maybe reinvent ourselves. So that's the process, like you say, the creative alchemy that happens inside the mind, inside the body, and inside just repatterning maybe our behaviors, repatterning the way we might see the world in our focus or unfocus, getting some discipline back, or maybe loosening up some discipline. So it works in various ways, this concept of sitting in the creativity and letting the creative flow or the creative energy really work through you. And here's the great thing, you don't have to do anything, because that's who you are. You're the energy of creativity. So it's a self-organizing intelligence within you. And so when you're ready to express it outward in your medium, painting, writing, speaking, being a great father, whatever that might be, then it's going to come out, and that is where you have some of your greatest pieces or whatever experience that you're having outside in this creative world.
Right.
So the world is your field. The world is your canvas.
Yes.
And so like we said, we need to be in touch with what is our palette, what is our color scheme, so to speak. You know, how do we want to be in our authenticity? How do we want to experience the outside world? Because really, we're so creative that we are the ones who create the experience.
Oh, absolutely. We're in the driver's seat, as one could say, right?
Totally.
So why do you think a lot of people, even though they're in the driver's seat, they don't really take the reins or the wheel in order to create this stuff? Why do you think? I mean, you've done a lot of studying, you've written books, you've acted, you've done a lot of things, traveled all over. What do you think is keeping individuals from doing this?
We have to dispel the notion of, again, creativity being only limited to artists, which we're all, if you're born, you're an artist. If you're a human body, you're an artist. So we need to dispel that myth. We also need to understand that people sometimes find themselves in a place of despair that might be, you know, they're just kind of like on a hamster wheel. Like, I got to go to work. I need to be in survival mode. I have a family to take care of. I don't have time to be thinking about creativity. And these are all very legit thoughts, you know? So what I like to do in my work, and I like to, you know, persuade other people, and this is a great medium too, is those of us that do understand and can practice creativity because we've formed our life this way, is to help other people by create modalities. We can create reading materials, we can create audios, we can create experiences. So that is our job, to move the sequence of being an artist, of just, and I always use painting, but you know, I love, like I said, I love
it's the
Dolly.
most understandable aspect of art.
Exactly.
Right?
So instead of us just creating something, to a painting or a sculpture where we're just going to look at it and admire it, we can now go into the phase of creating creations where they're going to benefit people. People, again, they're going to heal from it. They're going to awaken. They're going to have awareness. They're going to question their own reality. They're going to be empowered in the sense that they can do this too. They can take their time to, even creating a beautiful meal is creativity. You know 100%, this, right? It's so, it's relaxing. We're using all these great ingredients. You know, there's a great outcome afterwards. So it's really just opening up this perspective in this vessel via modalities of things to do for people to experience, and to get them back in touch, so they can touch it, so they can taste it, so they can smell it.
Yes.
And sense, our senses, the way we take in the world.
They're very powerful.
They're powerful. And if we can really like work on those senses, us the artists, we can draw people in and be like, hey, let's wake up. Let's be aware. Let's have a different experience. Because if you and I are having a fun experience, being creative, we're like, we want to bring in everybody else to have their own type of creative experience. Right.
So do you think that we do this because we're human? As groups, we're individuals that like to be around people. In general, is creativity a group thing?
I think it's both. It can be an individual thing. It can be a group collective thing. It can be a pair, a trio, you know, and creativity is very powerful, I think, when we're actually by ourselves, because then you're an open vessel and you can get ideas without being influenced. And you can maybe take risks in whatever you're doing without feeling like, you know, is someone watching me, or is someone going to criticize me?
Yeah, because that's another fear that a lot of individuals have, is the aspect of, what are people going to say if I do something that's outside the box? If I put on a different outfit today, are people going to say something? Why does this fear exist? Why do you think that we need to get rid of this fear?
So again, fear is only because we forget how creative we are. So what's outside of us in the 5 senses, or 6 senses, as I like to say, is how we're taking in the world, how we're giving the world, and how we're taking in the world, right? So fear makes us believe that we might be doing something wrong, or it leaves us open to be judged or criticized, when in reality, like we said, we have different perceptions of that vase of that flower, right? The thing is that no matter what, you're not going to think exactly the way that I think. No matter what, we have different belief systems. We have a different avatar body. We filter the life differently. We have different experiences. So for everyone is to help in the like awareness and the consciousness level that we're our own universe, we're our own world inside our mind and our body. So no matter what, fear is an illusion, because people will criticize and they will judge, or they'll like and they'll love, or they'll be supportive.
Right.
Because we can't control what anyone else thinks other than ourselves.
But do you think that this is something that people create for themselves, or this is also something that's been? Because I think that part of it is the learning process, right? We learn not to be afraid, but we learn that there are certain things that may hurt us in some way, right? If I hear a negative comment, do I really want to put myself in that predicament where I'm going to have a negative comment made to me by somebody else? Well, maybe it's safer for me not to do that. But what should we as individuals, our audience, do in order to not feel that way? In order to say, hey, you know what? Maybe I can take this little risk, right? Maybe I can buy a pair of red pants, right, and wear them out and be happy about it, because that will then lead me to something else. Maybe something even better, right? How does one do that?
I'd like to quote a great metaphysical teacher. He's since passed, Stuart Wilde.
Okay.
Stuart Wilde has a series of books, and he would refer to himself and us as the infinite artist, infinite creators. We're part of the infinite creator, the infinite of everything.
What does that mean?
So that means being part of the all. So whatever you want to believe that of why you're here, are you a spark of the universe? Are you a spark of an infinite creator? Whatever, you know, your belief system is, it is that you are creating, you're in a creative experience, whether it be on earth, in this life, here as human.
So it's almost like it's our duty to put our little grains of sand into this existence.
Sure.
And then from that, then we can all grow?
Sure, but also to understand is taking away that fear is that to remember that you're infinite self.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're infinite self, there's really nothing that you can do that's, you know, wrong in the sense of like being like, having your feelings hurt, or like, oh, you know, my heart can't take that, or my mind can't take that.
Right, right.
Yes, it can. You're infinite self.
Right.
The same creation that created you created the oceans, created the sky, created the planet. So that's you.
And there's the word again, created.
Created.
It's all about creativity. And that's one of the things that I try to do in my life every single day, is try to be as creative as possible, whether it be the way that I act, not act like in front of people, but the way that I present myself, or the way that I articulate things, or the way that I dress, or the way that I teach even. And I think that that's one of the most important things, is that we understand that we are here to be these open-minded individuals to create things, whatever it may be. It could be a sandwich one day, it can be an outfit the next day,
Yes.
It could be filming a movie and being an actor the day after that, right?
I love that.
And it really doesn't matter. I think the most important thing is to have that open mind, because the alternate universe of that is to be so closed-minded and go back to that gray place, right?
Yes.
The place where we're not going to be happy. And that's another thing that I want to talk about. How do you think creativity affects our, you know, personality, our demeanor, our attitude about things? Creativity makes me happy.
Yeah, we're definitely able to be more of our authentic self. You can hear it in someone's voice, you can see it in their body language, in just how they address people, what they do every day. Creativity is part of, you know, your personality and some of your identity. So that's the kind of the yin and the yang to who we are as humans is, you know, we can't be so married to certain identities, like, you know, I am an artist, I am an actor, I am this. You're a human, and sometimes, you know, what we do, creativity is an action. It's an action, it's what we do, and it's also an embodiment. So, you know, that goes into, again, a myriad of things when we work on like the energy points and
Right.
the chakras and stuff. That opens creativity. So creativity is just simply remembering who you are and your authentic self, and whatever that creates you as your personality of how you dress, how you want to show up to the world. And it can change. Maybe on Monday, Miguel's someone different than he is on Thursday.
True.
And you're free to do that. We're free to live in this influx of who it is we want to be. And guess what? Even when we're around different people, we're different personalities.
Oh,
we're
absolutely.
different creative beings.
100%. So are you saying then that we as individuals are always being creative?
Always.
Sometimes we don't even know that we're being creative.
If we're not constantly working on that, like creativity, again, going back to just the self, the reason that you chose to wear a red watch today, the reason that I love to wear like Larimar jewelry, you know, part of our personality traits
Right.
If we're not creating, we're not evolving, that means we're declining and we're slowly dying.
Love the word evolving, because I think it's all about evolution, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're evolving to, is something better at all times. So one of the things that I want to talk about is the fact that you have now written a book.
Yes.
What is that book about, and how did you get from not being a writer to being a writer? What kinds of fears, ideas, concepts did you go through in order to create this? What is it called, first of all?
Well, my book is called The Soul Effect. It's part one of a trilogy, The Soul Effect, and it's called Esto no es Polanco.
Okay.
So it's kind of like a Mexican Alice in Wonderland, if you will. There are some trippy aspects to it. And it's a mythology. It's a modern mythology. And it really plays into my character Solaris Marine, where she's recognizing the effects of what her soul basically has done to her and for her.
Right.
So it's an after effect. So at each chapter she meets characters that are kind of revealing to her who she really is. So like peeling an onion of that creativity, right?
Right.
So they know who she is as far as her ancient life goes, but she doesn't know. So it's a constant discovery of like, oh, okay, and the effects of the people that are in her life and why they're there and how they keep showing up. And it's about, it's sci-fi, it's timeline jumping. There's a lot of metaphysical principles that I like to put in there. There's creativity and new archetypes of, certain folklores that we're used to, I turn them a little bit more contemporary
in
on
our
the head.
region.
In our region, yeah. A lot of, places in Mexico, Tepoztlan, Oaxaca, Mexico City takes place there.
How did this come about, though? Like, how do you go from, I'm growing up as a child, I go to school, I educate myself, then I become part of this whole acting field, because you've done a lot of acting, and then now you begin to write. I feel like you are the kind of epitome of what it is to be creative, right?
Thank you.
You've got all these open avenues and aspects, which is another thing that I think is extremely important. How did you use all of that to create these individuals?
So another word for me for creativity is metamorphosis.
Ooh, I like that.
So for me, this is part of my metamorphosis. And I've actually always been a writer, and my parents have always encouraged my writing.
Right.
But to me, it's always kind of been easy to me, so I kind of would always put it on the shelf.
Really?
And as an actor, and reading scripts and all that stuff, it was always easy for me. And when I was a coach in LA and Florida, I had to write for commercials and stuff like that.
Right.
So writing has always been something to me that I took for granted. And so this time I was like, you know what, in my metamorphosis as who I am today with my experiences thus far, I really wanted to write something that was close to who I am as a Mexican American woman living on the border.
Wow.
So I really wanted to highlight some folklore of, some Mexican Aztec folklore. I really wanted to highlight what I call here the trifecta border of.
Tell us what that is.
Ciudad Juarez, El Paso, and Santa Teresa, New Mexico. So there's a three-way going on, and the character, all the timeline is through here, and it's really, I wanted to spotlight the border. Okay, I'm from here. How has this shaped me, and how is this for me as a hybrid Mexican American? Because sometimes you're not Mexican enough, and all these.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
Me and other people have had to hit that in our lives.
Yeah.
You don't have an accent, your skin's not dark enough. But then when I went traveling to Mexico City and Oaxaca and all these things, everyone looked like me.
Yeah.
They understood.
Yeah.
They understood,
Yeah.
And so the book goes into the Mexican-American hybridization.
Oh, cool.
And the power that comes with the fusion of being a mestizo.
And being a mestizo and being part of many different cultures, I feel like has also helped you to become more creative to a certain degree.
Absolutely.
Correct?
Oh my gosh. It's a consciousness. Our unique level of creativity is a blending and a fusion of the consciousness of our experiences, the people we meet, the places we go to, the things we do in life, and then the way that our mind configures them into, in this case, my book. I'm surprised myself that I'm like, wow, that's trippy. And some people that have heard
I love it.
like an audio version of it, they're like, is this based on reality? Because this wouldn't wouldn't faze me that this happened in your life.
Yeah.
It is very sci-fi. It is very like fantasy driven.
Right.
But yes, there are some elements that you're like, I know you wouldn't believe it, but yeah, that was a true moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's multi-layered, and it is there so we can start to look at not only the reality in front of us, but like the sub-reality, the symbols, the signs, the creativity.
Right, and it's all about creativity.
Yes.
But also, you know, one of the most important things that I think that we have gotten out of this conversation is the idea that creativity is very important. So I wanted to thank you for taking the time out today to even come out here and talk to us about this beautiful theme, which is creative living, right?
Yes, thank you, Miguel.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you guys for again coming in and watching our show. Again, my name is Miguel Valenzuela and you're watching Creative Thinkers. And if you guys want to get a hold of me, you guys can email me at mvalen31@epcc.edu. And we'll see you guys with another guest next time. Thank you very much.